Hey guys, welcome to Redline Talk Show. I'm here today with Ilyana, and our special guest today is Dr. Fatjona Lubonja, who is an accomplished author, researcher, and educator specializing in neuroscience, behavior, and education. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Fatjona, I just want to get to know a little bit more about you and your background for our listeners here in the American community. Walk us through a little bit about your background, how you got started into this type of field.
Well, the type of field in neuroscience and behavior and education, it began technically in America. Okay. I had the opportunity, I got accepted at the university, not for the first time, not Columbia University, because I thought my English was limited and so on, coming from Albania and totally from a different field, which was arts. But with a lot of goal and vision, I wanted to get accepted at Columbia University. I love New York, and mostly I explored Philadelphia, but New York had something that welcomed everybody. I felt American in New York. And before getting accepted at Columbia University, I visited other universities like Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, Johns Hopkins. But the first day I entered the open house at Columbia University, the professor had an accent, like me. So I said, this is my place. And I was lucky. I worked hard to go there.
What made you choose this field of neuroscience?
Technically, with professors before getting into Columbia University, I was doing essays, and I had a lot of questions, specific questions. And they told me, because I began learning education, but like impairment for students that are impaired or disability type of education. How do we learn? That was always a question. And one of the professors read my paper and told me, I'm going to help you. She said, she graduated from Columbia University, and she said, I'm going to write a recommendation. You need to apply there if you need to answer these type of questions, because some type of disability or some type of autism, how do we learn question comes from, we have to understand the brain before then understanding the outcome of it in a way, So learning first is a behavior. It's in income information, and then there's a process into the brain, and then there is an outgoing, which is the speaking or the behavior itself. So it goes through a process first. Learning actually is the memory. So pretty much that's
so
what
it's like
it
a three-part
it's very complicated.
And output.
It's very complicated. We're trying
simplify it.
We simplified into three, like intake, which is like the environmental part of it, is also genetics, like how do we use our sensories to get the information. That is very important. And children, I'm specialized in children 0 to 9, the maximum. And the reason that I specialize in this age is because this is the reason I'm specialized in the brain, how the brain gets that information. And because we can shape the child within that learning. If a lot of kids, sometimes it's their development differently. Because I have a lot of mothers say, my kids have autism. I say, not really. Sometimes most of our children are born with certain level of understanding with the environment, certain level of genetic predisposition, and also certain level of environment triggers. Okay? So the environment trigger is the one that we work, because in behavior, we say we have to observe it. If we don't observe, it's hard for us to work on it because we cannot see inside the brain. But understanding the brain, how the process is, then learning becomes something that it's not an enigma anymore. Because we say learning, but learning is very big. Pretty much how we talk, how we stay, what we eat, how we eat is everything.
So can you share your experience as a teacher fellow at Columbia University's?
That was actually the first time they just opened, it was the Zuckerman Brain and Mind Institute. Is one of the most prestigious in the world, directed by and founded by Dr. Kendall, which is the Nobel Prize, the legend of neuroscience. We say when he speaks, the entire neuroscience area listens because he was the first one that did the images of the brain pretty much. And that's how he got the Nobel Prize. they were. I receive a lot of emails from internal Columbia University, and there is many opportunities as far as like if you want to explore, and that's what Columbia University is good at. It's like you want to explore more, then there is this. I just made an application, and they actually were looking for New York. My full residency is actually in New Jersey. But because I was connected to New York University and I was also teaching in New Jersey, they said, well, since this is a beginning, I got accepted. And it was a great experience because we really we went to New York schools. In Manhattan areas, and we talked to them about the brain, and the interest was very high. So we educated younger generation about the brain itself.
What specifically?
Specifically, depends on the question. Student had a lot of questions. The age was like teenage, like freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And for 1 hour, they set and made question. For example, they were very curious about when we talked about recognizing faces. And that's like, they said, everybody think, oh, we recognize faces. Not really. There is a part in the brain that is dedicated in humans, actually specific in humans, dedicated to understand, recognize faces. And that is born, as soon as it's born, recognizes the mother face too. So it makes a discrimination between other species. But humans have it really into their brain, and sometimes there is dysfunction about that, and we see it sometimes in autism behavior. They cannot really put the things together. Because in our brain,
they have a connection.
For example, where our eyes, like our brain makes a fast connection. When you see me, I see you, you connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you make the total thing. Well, that is made in different part of the brain. And there's this area that connects it together. So they were very curious. How could you not recognize the face? Yes. So we explained to them that we grow up with certain things, that we are different. But we with our brain, the brain is a very, how would I say, smart and very spongy way, so it can be modified. And if you don't recognize, like an autism, for example, some of them, they don't see you in your eye. So that means they really can't really put things together. Or there's people that can see only the eyes, but they can't see the lip or the nose. They can see, but they just don't put it in the proportion, we say, So they're smart. It's a very fascinating word, So that was one of the things. Other questions were, Morning, how do I memorize things? How do I learn faster? It's a universe of learning. It's a universe of.
I want to speak to you a little bit about autism and the increased prevalence of autism in our society. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, autism is still into making it understanding autism because it's how would I say? It's not really a physical that we could diagnose it in MRIs, for example, or even functional MRIs that are made for research. If you would have an autistic kid and then you would put it into any testing, it would not show anything based on the tested results that we have now. Okay, in the future, we don't know. What's going on is that into research, there has been at least 11 cases that have been studied very deeply post-mortem. And if it has been said that there is a dysfunction of neuronal pathways between phases of the brain, we had like 6 phases of the brain, layers, we would say layers. And somehow these neurons make wrong connection, we say it, or like not. So there is a genetic predisposed there, but also the environment also add into it or take off. There is different elements that we would put. There's not one thing only to say, okay, you have this dysfunction neural pathway, then you become autism. That's not really the case.
It's a combination of things.
There's a combination of things, in multifactorial.
Yeah.
And that creates, for example, we have a system when kids are born, and it's called pruning. So the brain of the child is grown very fast. So we have billions of neurons burning because they're getting information so fast. The first year, second year are the fastest travel of neuronal birth of the cell. But the brain has also a process that we call it pruning, means also take off some neuron cells. Why? It's important to survive. Because, for example, we are here and we're concentrating on our voice, the environment, anything around. Some voices or some noises outside are not important, so the brain takes it off, even though sensories take them, because the ears and the nose and the smell doesn't stop. They take only information. It's the brain that really makes that decision after what to take, what to hold for short-term memory, what to hold for long-term memory, and what to really discard. Some of them has been told in autistic kids, they get more information than they're supposed to, and there is some kind of like that pruning is not really done correctly.
So I do want to focus a little bit about the research and the publications that you have out there. Your articles explore fascinating topics like sexual behavior, brain memory, and learning. What are some of the key insights or findings that stand out to you?
Well, for sexual behavior, actually, technically, I wanted to write it more for Albanian population.
Why? We need help.
Yes, I've been actually, I know I'm very confident into it because all the articles that I wrote about sexual behavior, it's not really about sexual activity. It's about how do we really, what is the brain that really look into, why certain things are how they are, you know? And we need to cope with all of those, and we need to find ourselves, you know, because we're species other than humans, you know, we have that genetic predisposition. And sexual behavior, it is sexual itself. It's a genetic also predisposition before. It's, in behavior, we say the basic automatic reinforcement is food, heating, temperature, and also sexual behavior. So it's very important for us to educate ourselves. So that was more targeted to Albanian population because there is limitation into that research.
But what exactly do you mean by that, the Albanian population? Like what, are we lacking
because then
something,
now we're
or?
talking about culture, yes.
Right.
There is, I might be the only one that write about that.
Really?
Yeah. I would love to
do you
be
think
spoken.
Do you think that because we don't feel comfortable talking about that? Or
I think
what
it's
is it?
both.
It's
There
both.
is a specialization about it, and there is also we come from 50 years of communism that he hasn't been spoken at all. Then prior to that was the king's years,
Monarchy,
and then monarchy, then Turkish invasion. So we have a history a little bit of like, unfortunately, it's going to take years for us to really achieve that, and that comes with education. And as far as
so how has the feedback been though?
Very good.
Yeah,
very good.
I'm curious to see.
Actually, because I'm also a known face and I'm a progressive type of woman, I've been told that I'm actually the person to talk about it. You know, and it has been very successful. Even from I've had comments from all type of readers that none of them was negative. In a sense, everybody has opinions. Opinions are okay. Some of them are constructive criticism, which is okay. Right. I'm not the researcher making the research. I'm taking what is already the research out there. And because I've been at Columbia University I grew up there almost, so I have all the research, the latest one that come out. So I connect the behavior. I have the triangle of education, we call it, the behavior, the neuroscience, and the education. So
your third book, Distortion of a Tranquil Day, is in progress.
Yes.
Can you give us a glimpse into the book?
I have published through Amazon. I had a contract with Amazon. I published only the 7 chapters. It's a history, actually. Goes back even through my family, but it's a fiction, part history, part fiction, and I talk about human behavior, of course, But I like the idea to speak about neuroscience and behavior in narrative. That has been actually very pushed in a way by some professors also at Columbia University when they're ready. There is because I was talking to Dr. Burton, and he's one of the head of the research there. He was the one that did research in Amazon. And I was sitting in the studio and I said, I really don't like the academic writing. Like, in a sense, the research writing. I like to make it narrative. And he looked at me, he's like, who told you not to do it? You know? It's just
but your narrative is what's going to get through to the people.
Exactly. And he showed me
Yes.
researchers that wrote in narrative. They're very successful.
You're speaking now the language of the layperson.
Exactly. He said you have to speak what you're talented. And that's how you're going to be read, you know? So I continued, and he's been having success on American population, actually, mostly. I have a lot of Albanian readers, which are mostly young girls, college girls. Those are really have read a lot of my books. But because I also speak, as I say, I speak about behavior in general. Even when I talk about love, it's not really love, it's about the sexual behavior, and then or like there is an autistic kid there, and how we don't understand that, and how we really there is like a taboo that say autistic kids don't love. That is really wrong, you know. It's just, how could you measure love?
That's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
Can you tell us some of the challenges you faced when advocating for public health issues as an active member of SOFI? And tell us a little bit about what
this
SOFI
is very
is
important,
as well.
actually.
Yes.
The organization is a national organization in the United States. They are very prepared about teaching health, giving health education, pretty much. And most of the health education, there is representative from New Jersey, New York, all states in America, and they go once a year, go and meet with the representatives in Congress and Senate, and we educate them for a policy that are going to vote. Mm-hmm. So we educate them, like now in October that I was there, for example, we kind of gave the entire data of New Jersey population and New York population about this grant on mental health. So, and then we go there and we say, okay, I'm Dr. Lubonja, I'm one of your voters. Right. So they listen very carefully. And I tell them, you have this is much population of the age with autism. This is much of suicidal line. This is much of this. So let's keep doing. You present the data. We present the data to them, and we are educated for that. It's not like we just showed up in their office. It's all, this is all prepared. But do you
provide recommendations?
We provide recommendation, and they look at the data and they get our information. And they say, if we need more information regarding this, for example, CDC is asking $300 million now for mental health education in the entire United States. It's very important.
Okay. Yeah, it's very
good. It's not just like $300 million look a lot, but we're talking about the entire United States. It will come into New Jersey, let's say, or New York. And then it will go to every county. Then after every county, it will go into nonprofits or hospitals.
But what does it entail, though? Exactly, like what type of education?
It provides money to the education, to the health.
To do what? More education around it?
For example, suicidal line.
Okay.
It's based totally in grant. If they stop that grant, there is no suicidal line. That means post-COVID, how many people? We're not going to even talk about that data because it was actually almost parallel to the COVID loss.
Do they listen to your recommendation? They do? They don't like try to challenge it or try to dismiss it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No,
that's good.
We're talking about if they're going to have to challenge it, they're going to have to challenge in the Congress or Senate with their data, not challenging me, because I'm not really telling them what to do and what to vote. What I'm telling them that this is in a field right now. This is where you're going to go and vote. Doesn't matter where you're going to vote. You're going to vote yes, no. When I go there, I give them the data, and then it's up to them what they.
That's probably the biggest challenge.
Challenge. They're going to have to make decision.
Make a decision if it's for one cause versus another cause.
And then they dealing with the voters. Then after, we are educators. We don't.
You're not politicians.
Well, we're not politicians.
I understand.
But we also know exactly what they're going into their voters. I know the numbers of, for example, in New Jersey, here in Brooklyn, how many autism, what is the mental health. Yeah. So we can provide them, and it's up to them if they want to put a grant and put into place or not.
You are also the co-founder of a nonprofit organization called NeuroEDUSA. Did I say that right?
NeuroEDUSA.
NeuroEDUSA. Can you tell us a little bit more about that mission?
This came, it's like kind of my baby in a way, you know. I'm very proud of this, actually. It's totally independent. It just became because every time I traveled to Albania, I had mothers that had no idea how to really treat autism or like a child with any type of disability that derive from the brain. And I saw that there's a lack of information. And it came up one day because I was on a children's yard one day, just happened to be with my nephew. And I saw every time some children left, this mother came with this child and was holding it always in her arms. And one time for the entire week. So one time I stopped her and I just spoke to her and I introduced myself. And I told her and I said, let's just put your child to walk. You know, don't hold it always, because love is love, but also that child needs to survive.
Yeah. They develop their own skills.
Development. Yeah. And so I put a plan and voluntarily. And I also help others. And I said, wow, there is so much need. It's a need. So I began as a one-woman show in the beginning. And it was very successful without even doing an advertisement or anything. And then after that, I teamed with one of the best neurosurgeons, which is an Albanian American, Dr. Toshkazi. We developed a nonprofit. And we have a very excellent board with one of the best lawyers and judge and the dean of Jefferson University, a lot of professors. So it's an American base. We also have one lawyer, Mr. Hushi. He's in Albania. So it's more like a general. It's not totally medicine. It's more education based. And that is the goal, to educate. You know, this is a nonprofit. It's registered in America. We do not deal with like donations with the money itself. They go directly to the children, or they go directly to the stage or whatever
Well, how do you guys raise funds for it?
Sometimes we're contacted by needy parents, you know, and they have business, and we have given them free consultation. We haven't charged anybody, and they are just like, okay, let's just do something else for other kids. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a word by word. They see the value.
Them reaching out to you and what you've done for their family.
We're coming with our own expenses.
Right.
We're leaving 1 week from, you know, how is the work in America. And then we're donating. Every donation that has come over there, we're going directly to the children's hospital and given to the mother or whoever was recommended by them.
I do want to talk a little bit about your artistic background as well. So I know many people knew you from that side of the world first before you kind of took into this whole research. And tell us a little bit about that. You were, I remember, right, from Makine Memorials, the video, the famous video.
Famous video.
You were on that video.
Free girl.
Tell us about that life in the beginning.
I think I'm still the same, you know, to achieve this in America is still the same. I always was a very good student. I finished Liceo Artistic for performing arts, ballet, and did piano. I was taught by the best professors, and I'm really very proud of that because I got the best. One of my professors, Soisa Hajo, Luan Stino, Lachinako, Etier, you know, saying it's not coming. And then one of my piano teachers, which for me was a role model, Averdita Lazri Morina, which even today is a legend for me. And then Agronalia. We did Ophelia with him. And that's how I ended up in a video, because I did more movie. I worked with Margarita Jepa, Raimonda Bulco, and Andrea.
You were in films, right? Mirella and
Vaisen Ideal.
How was that experience?
Very young.
And the movie industry back then, it was very different, right? There was a lot of challenges.
This was in the 90s,
you know, 90s,
very innocent. We were just showing exactly who I was. I was with my own clothes, not too much makeup, and that's why. But I think I was a little bit lucky too, because I entered into the things that were the first time.
Yeah. You're the pioneers.
I was the first time. I don't want to feel like I'm old or anything, but they were successful. Even Vice and Ideal was very successful as the first movie with teenagers having the suicidal thoughts, and the bullying in school and the dancing.
So there's that neuroscience component into your artistic side as well.
Yes.
Like how they married each other.
Okay. They are connected because creativity is very connected.
Yes.
Creativity is the entire brain. Technically, that's how we survive.
Yeah, you got to be creative
by
to
being
survive.
creative to survive.
Yeah, of course.
It's a surviving mechanism. And then by doing performing arts and piano, I had a great discipline. We used to work like 4 hours a day. And I never wrote about that. I represented while the whole Albania was going through transition and all that. We were like the younger one. I was part of that group that represented the ballet in Milano. When the critic wrote, the Corriere della Sera wrote an article about the ballerinas, the Albanian theater. Yeah. We were very proud, We were actually the first one. 91.
91.
Imagine these people were going and then we were representing another part. And it was a clashes of like ideas and art. And I'm very proud of that because I remember one of my cousin went to Milan and it was Teatro Smeraldo. And Dario Fo was the Nobel Prize, the author, Italian author, philosopher. And he was showing all the journalists around the world, and this is the opera house of Paris, of Milan, La Scala, and this is then the Albanian Teatri Operas. And then here I was with a group, and my cousin, that happened to be a journalist there, he said I had tears to see him because he hasn't seen me in a long time. So I have a lot of memories, Macchina Memorias, actually, it was just happened for me to be there because actually I was doing Ophelia with Agrona Liai. And it was one of the best. For me, Macchina Memorias, it was just happened. Ophelia that I did, the stage was done in the city of Lora in the water. And when I come out with the hair and they put flowers, they come out as if you go in the water. It was Shakespeare. So it was great experience, great experience. R.D. Jabrea and the producer, Bozo, I knew them, So technically, I didn't even perform in Macchina Memorias.
You were just...
I was just free washing in the hair, just a young girl. Like literally, it's being a young girl. And that's why people love it, because it was natural.
It was natural.
It was very natural.
It was authentic.
I never even combed my hair because we were going in the water and then get dry. And then what Bozo worked, he just took pieces without you thinking then you're getting...
Without you watching.
Without
He's
watching.
doing raw footage.
He did that and then he put all together and it came out. One of those masterpieces that just need to happen there. And then Albania during that time, it was so virgin, so beautiful.
It was innocent.
It was so innocent,
Which brings me to my next question today. Where do you see the art world in Albania? How has it changed since the beginning when you started?
It has transformed, I wouldn't say... I think it needed that transformation in a way. We needed to be open to the world because I remember I was very young. We went to Milan and we were like shocked, and then we were like, oh, we're good. Because we didn't even know with what to compare ourselves,
right?
And our professors were from Bolshoi Theater. We had all that beautiful. And we went to Milan and they really appreciated that. And it was a group of girls, so I'm very proud of that time. And we represented Albania very well, and I'm very proud of that.
I want to connect the creativity part of the brain into your neuroscience research. Can you talk to us a little bit more about development of the brain and as we're exploring creativity from childhood and...
Well, what I connect daily my past experience with art, visual sensories and all that daily. For example, with a ballet, with walking, I can detect it very fast. A rotation of the side, I can detect it very fast because of ballet, The visual, we diagnose all of them go through visual diagnostication with the drawing. Observation, how long they observe. Sometimes it's an eye problem. It's not an autistic problem. It's an observation problem because they can't observe. They can't get that information. And by not getting information, they're behind. So it's so connected. And creativity, for me, has helped because I never looked one way. I looked in so many ways to really see that child. And what can we do? For example, why should we get the cup just this way? We can get it differently. We can stand, we can sit, we can go different touch, different sensory. For example, autistic kids have sensory problems, the touching, for example. So let's get a different type of cut, different type of plastic. There's so much. So that is the creativity. You look from a very wide horizon instead of saying, okay, that's what the book said. That's what I'm going to do. There is nothing such thing in neuroscience. I have to read every year because there's no research. We're constantly developing and constantly growing to understand the brain more because the tests are better now. Now we're getting different tests. Now they just found out about Alzheimer's, that it's a protein problem. So now you have to look differently.
I didn't know that. So because it's a protein problem, you're saying?
Yeah, and in hippocampus, it's a very small part of the midbrain. It was presented at Columbia University, and so it's a big step. And one of the researchers when I was at Columbia during the neuroscience study, one of the researchers, we did Parkinsonism, dystonia, and it was a very big grant during the Obama administration. What they did is, it was the time during the Afghanistan war, so a lot of soldiers were coming with amputees and all that. So they were trying to really, because even though in neuroscience talk about the brain, for example, if you were in a war and let's say one of the leg is cut, the brain still continue thinking that the leg is there. So what they did is they touch with a very, very sophisticated way, laser, a part of the neurocell. Then it made the quadriplegic move the finger. Now, that finger got $6 billion grant to develop this, the way how the brain would work. So we command your leg that might not be there to do exactly as your brain tells you to do.
So speaking about leg amputees, there are individuals who have phantom pain where they can swear that they have pain to their, if they have a right leg amputee, they have pain to their right toe, but there is no toe there because the brain still is signaling that there's pain to an area that doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, because these are we're genetically born with an automatic behavior, we call it. Automatic behavior is reflexive. So if the reflexive is there, it's there. It's just the feeling is there. The feeling is still
even
there.
Though physically it's
the
not
physic
present.
And the same thing.
I think it's more of a memory. So
it's a reflexive thing. It's a memory, a motoric memory we call it. Sometimes in rehabilitation, I tell people when they ask me questions, if you were an athlete or if I was ballet or anything, and then let's say you have a surgery, a brain surgery or anything, you would recuperate way faster because of that memory, which is a great thing.
So I want to link it back a little bit to Albania and this topic specifically, neuroscience. Do we have this back home? Do we have schools that teaches this type of learnings? Or
in Albania, there is not specific just neuroscience like in United States. In Albania is the neurology department in the University of Medicine in Tirana. So they go through neurology. But to do neuroscience, you really need a lot of lab,
so you need resources.
Need resources, a lot of resources, because it is strictly research. It's not just you do surgery and then you do research. We have great surgeons. We have really, very talented doctors. And one thing that really lack there is behavior classes. There is no such a behavior classes. It is also a new understanding. Also, it's a new century type of understanding. Now there is a separation between behavior and psychology. Before it was more fused. Now there is a separation because psychology look at it from inner, so it's not observed other than a behavior that somebody doing. Behavior is totally external and observed, so they collect data and they do programs how to
that makes sense, actually.
For example, a child that is not eating,
right,
anorexia,
that's a behavior.
That is also psychology because it's also mental, but neurosa, so also we have to look also the behavior, how to really do the plan, because you understand psychology, but how do we apply that to make that child eat healthy?
Yeah.
So
That's
now you behavior is more hands-on with the data collected. So it's they're both, like if you go to schools, they hire kind of both now instead of one because they work fused, they work together.
Do you see yourself going back and doing teachings for students about on these topics?
I am
or is that part of this organization?
It's part of this organization. I don't have, nowadays you don't have to go anywhere. You can always have it online. Well, if the opportunities will come up, why not? If we do it right, I would like to do it right because, it's time for us, more important for us. In United States, time is precious. But by helping, yes.
So, what do you hope your legacy will be as a researcher?
Wow.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
And what do you think you're going to leave behind, as part of your legacy?
Well, I would like to, all the information that I have, I would like to get it out. Say what is the point that I got all this education and I have it within myself? I'm the first one that applies certain things in behavior. For example, how long should I stay in a phone throughout the day? I put a timer for myself and then I have to follow.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
If I have to apply to others, I have to also apply to myself.
So what's the number? How long should we
have to lower it a lot because without knowing you're 8 hours and it's time of your life.
Right.
8 hours?
It's 8 hours minimum that
Think
people.
So?
You have young kids, you have more than 8 hours on a phone.
So what should be the recommended?
Because now the TV is on a phone. So you don't only have school things. Now everything is school. Now everything is social media and the TV at night. So think about everything.
You're always on the screen.
You're always on the screen. The problem with that is first, it puts other people's stress into you without even noticing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And the second is that it goes in short-term memory because it's only visual. So we will have to go back to paper reading if we really want to work with longer-term memory. Because it's a mechanic. There's a research, and it was done at Columbia University, and I was part actually of it. The higher, most information learning goes into when you have some kind of mechanic movement than just sitting and watching.
Interesting.
And so if you would sit and watch TV, in the moment you might think you're remembering what you're saying, but technically that pruning happened, that information comes up so much, the brain just takes it up because it doesn't need it to survive. Everything that comes in long term, we need it to survive. Or at least the brain act that way. So if we move the page and we're looking at the page, it's that mechanic thing that we do that it adds to our memory.
Versus if you were reading a book on Kindle.
Yeah, there is something, and there is really research about that. They really took a Kindle and the
if
paper.
You think about it. It doesn't make
because of the movement. Just that movement. For example, a student, we put a test that a student would memorize something on a screen. And then we told them to move around or to sit. Student that moved around and sat had better memory to remember what they saw than the student just sat without, just looked at it.
I personally never did well with lectures, even in college. I had to go back home, look at the books, write everything out. I had to make it into an activity in order for me to learn it.
We already know.
Half the time I was just kind of daydreaming while the teacher was lecturing because it just wasn't comprehending, and I would just teach myself then afterwards.
Yeah, well, even on a session with an autistic child, if because it's a learning, that's the technique we're learning. I literally made them move around sometime and ask the question while they're walking around. So they answer. But the key is they have to retain it, because that's with the development. They have to retain it. They have to remember it. So
it's the action part of it that they remember.
Sometimes, because by holding the children sitting the whole time. In every conference that I've done, it's no more than 20 minutes. Our brain does not take more than 20 to 40 minutes. It just doesn't.
Which goes back to what we were saying before, that I think there should be an outdoor learning experience versus indoor learning. I feel like if you were a child trying to learn in school, you will learn more being in the nature environment versus being inside in rooms and just...
but that goes with family. Now everybody is indoor.
Yeah.
So let's not leave it just to the school, because it's only 4 hours, 5 hours a day. How about in a family? So most of the cases, I've seen cases that because the child is indoor, he has become a problem, behavior issues. And I told the parents, you change the environment, you will not have this.
Right.
So we come also, in our childhood, we were very outdoor.
Well, Dr. Fatjona, it was a pleasure having you and learning so much with this, with this
is
interview.
an interesting topic.
But I guess I do want to ask you one last question. What message do you want to share with young people, especially women who aspire to make a difference in both science and public advocacy?
Just dream big and you work hard. You have to work hard. Some people say it's luck, but luck without the working hard is just luck, nothing. It doesn't become a project, and to touch it by hand. You work hard and never believe that it's not you. Because I came from performing art, came from opera house and all that, and here I made it to Columbia University. Never even thought about it.
Yeah. Working
but you dream
with
about
the top
it. Totally different with the top doctors. Proud.
Yeah.
Just being near Dr. Kendall for me was like the Nobel Prize was a dream. So dream big, but something that you can work on it.
Right.
And there's nothing, even for mothers that have autistic kids, never give up. It's a learning thing. Just don't take it. Take it as part of your life.
Like
be creative.
Be creative
and begin very young, as soon as they're born.
Early intervention.
Intervention is the best. The more help you get, the better it is. Forget the taboos, because the word has to become from you first to the others. Don't wait for the others to understand you. You have to understand yourself first. And then the others will accept you, because everybody respects the war for a better life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatjona.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you. And thank you so
your
much.
journey.
So much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.